Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Brown Bag Bets, powered by BetSperts. We are your daily dose of quick hit handicapping and sports betting picks. I'm Alex Christensen, and joining me, as always, Andy Molitor. How are you, Andy? How was your weekend? How did football go? Did we make a little bit of money? And we did okay on the picks that we gave out. I think we won everything but one teaser.
Yeah, the Patriots couldn't quite pull things together long enough to get anything done. That was an ugly game. We had an ugly game last night. That was no fun to watch, although Drew did talk me into betting a little bit on the Browns -6, which apparently was never going to be in doubt the way the Giants put the game plan together. And I regret to inform you, it's not the NFC East, but we do have kind of a bad game again tonight. It is a 14-point road favorite, so it is what it is. We'll have some fun with it. That's the thing. That's why the good Lord invented handicaps for bad games like this, because there's still a line, there's still a spread, there's props galore. I know a bunch of people that have had some hot takes on some props. Maybe I'll pass those along as I get some information throughout the day. I don't have anything yet. I'm probably going to try to find something for later. But yeah, I had a good weekend. College ball went good. I didn't bet any yesterday. I got a couple today. Starting to get into the overnights markets. Pretty happy about that. And yeah, a couple more weeks of football left. No Thursday night. And a real quick scheduling notice, and I have no idea what I'm going to do next week yet. Haven't got that far yet, but no Christmas Day show. We're not going to do anything on the day of Christmas. We are going to be Monday through Thursday this week, though, so we'll try to get you some stuff as much as possible, stuff that Thursday show full, chock full of stuff for the weekend. So did the NBA start yet?
Not quite yet. We still have one more sleep until there's NBA basketball, which means we have another future for the folks out here. Today, we're going to talk about the Sacramento Kings, a team that didn't do much this offseason. Really, their big acquisition was Hassan Whiteside and then drafting Tyrese Halliburton. One out of the two of those I like. The other one makes me scratch my head in curiosity. But you start to look at this team at 28.5 wins. That puts them at a win rate of a little better than 40%. Right around 40.5%. And again, this is a team, they did win 43% of their games last year. They're Pythagorean, right around that number. So the market expecting a small step back from them. But when I start to look at this team, again, didn't do anything to get better over the season. I don't know where the improvements are going to come from this team, and the rest of the Western Conference got much better. The Warriors are going to be much better this year. Minnesota's even going to be better this year. As you start to look through the league, it's really tough for me to see, how many teams are the Sacramento Kings even really going to be favored over? Maybe Oklahoma City, maybe San Antonio if they have a rough start to the season, have to visit Sacramento early. But there's really not many teams, really, again, only one that I see right now that I feel great about Sacramento being favored over. And even when you look at the Eastern Conference, again, Cleveland, Detroit, I'm not even sure New York, really, that Sacramento would be favored over them. So as you start to piece together, what their lines are going to look like every single night, I really struggle to see how this team is going to win 40% of their games, let alone the 41, 42%. You're going to need to clear this over. So I'm happy to jump on the under there, 28.5 again for the Sacramento Kings this upcoming season. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, and I got to wrap my head around just the fact that we're doing adjustments here because it's not an 80, it's not the full season. What a 72-game season. So, these numbers look crazy. You say 40% and I see 28.5. It just doesn't quite jive with my brain yet. It's like opening.
It'd be 46. Be 46, 46.5 in, an 82-game season.
Okay. Yeah. So that helps. That helps my brain a little because there are some issues, with that. Normally, just looking at the same season over and over. I don't know. It'd be like having a 12-game NFL season and opening, regular season win totals. I would struggle with my brain trying to look into that. But under 28.5, I can dig it.
And I did a bad job. It's under 33.5, not 40.5. I was trying to figure it out. That was a bad number. So sorry. If you convert that 28.5 to an 82-game season, you're looking at 33.5.
Okay. So 30, like a 30 and 50 team, something along those lines. I got you. No, I can. I'm going to trust you. I don't bet NBA. I've been betting all these. I have them in my queue. So hopefully you do well this season, or I will remind you of it strongly in the spring when I have lost some money. Like I said, I'm doing overnights, and I put this banner together. These are overnight prices. So Evansville plus 11.5, Hampton plus 7. This is something we mention earlier last week. We mentioned it a couple times. I'll mention it for every sport, because when I bet these, I'm going to place them in my account, bet them. The very next thing I'm going to do is put them in on the BetSperts app, because that's how people get notifications the fastest. I used to do it on Twitter, and that was fine. People like that, but also there is something to be said for, if you put my notifications on for Twitter to get plays, you're also going to sit and get the notifications every time I have something that's stupid to say about a referee or reply to someone. So I feel like it is a little cleaner too. So I put these in yesterday afternoon. I can't tell you exactly what time. If you get on the app, it will, you can set up notifications. So the second I put any plays in, you'll get a little notification on your phone. You could have gotten the 11.5. You could have gotten the 7 last night. These are currently down to about 9.5 and 5. I'm actually fine with both of those numbers. I just stake everything evenly when I track. I'm betting how I bet, but these actually were fair sized edges. So even if I bet these this morning and I saw the 9.5 and the 5, I still would have bet these. So I'm super happy. I got value. I'm happy with anybody who bet these last night and got extra closing line value. And technically it's not closing line value, because these lines have not closed. There could be massive buyback against me on, whoever these teams play. I'm not even really sure. I have to go double check, because this is just how my numbers. I ran it yesterday. I looked into all these teams, and there's a million little teams running through my head at all times. I couldn't even tell you who the opponents are right now. But Evansville, kind of a value squad for me last year, even though they were really bad in conference play. And Hampton is a bad team, but they're playing another bad team, and I'm happy to take the points in this one. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually won. So again, my name's Andy, and that's my BetSperts name. You can find it on the app. I'm going to do this probably 5-6 hours from now. I'm going to look at look aheads for tomorrow. And if I place any bets, you'll see them come through.
Yep. Again, you can follow him on the BetSperts app at Andy, myself at Alex Christensen, no space there. Again, you said you like Evansville at 9.5, Hampton at 5. If they move a little more, how far are you going? Would Hampton +4 be a play? Evansville +8, 8.5? Where are you kind of drawing your line in the sand?
Yeah, I wouldn't travel too far. I'd say bet these now. If you watch this afternoon and they've gone maybe there'll be some buyback and get a better price than this. It's hard to read how some of these markets want to move from day to day, but yeah, I wouldn't go much lower than the current prices right now. I hate saying that I would bet them even at a worse price this morning, but don't go too much further. That's just kind of how I hate that when it gets close, I win, and somebody else who tailed along loses because of a bad number. So just try to be quicker. Numbers matter, especially over a season like this. If 3-4 times a number matters, it can be the difference between making some money and breaking even.
Yep. So congratulations to those of you that already follow Andy on BetSperts. You've got those numbers you see down below. If you're watching this or listening to this, look for Evansville +9.5, Hampton +5, and we'll kind of draw the lines there. Does that make sense, Andy?
Yeah, I can live with that.
All right, let's jump into a little bit of NFL talk. We'll get into the Monday night game in just a little bit. There are 2 look-ahead spots that we both like. I'm going to start with the Philadelphia Eagles. They are playing against the Dallas Cowboys in a game where I was really surprised. This actually opened pretty much a pick. I think Dallas might have even been a 1-point favorite for a few minutes. When I take a look at that, Cowboys win over San Francisco, I think maybe the market here is overreacting to that. They had a 4-0 turnover edge. I actually got a chance to watch a lot of that game, and it was absolutely shocking that the game was even that close given some of the edges that they had. San Francisco was very, very close to winning that game. So I think a lot of people, maybe again in the market are kind of overreacting some of that stuff and haven't done maybe the box score handicap that you need to do. As I start to look at the Eagles, I've been really impressed the last couple of weeks with what Hurts is doing. The offense seems to look more dynamic again. They have someone that's at least making some confident throws. And again, they seem to start to be getting healthy a little bit. Some of the pieces are starting to come back. So I like the Eagles. I think that again, the Cowboys aren't going to be able to do what they're used to doing against Wentz. It's going to take the coaching staff some time to look at some of that Hurts film and come up with something new. So I think the Eagles have a little bit of edge there, and I think the market's probably overvaluing what Dallas did on Sunday. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I had the Niners. I had them essentially. I bet the Niners. I had to pick them at close 4. I sold out to -1 to get a cheaper price. So I had Niners -1. Felt bad. Got down 14-0 off turnovers right away. it's not a team that's super conducive to playing from behind. So that was them the breaks. That was bad luck, I guess. But I still stand by the handicap. And yeah, Dallas is not a good team. Jalen Hurts does bring something to this team. I think he definitely will be a starter going forward. So I'm fine with backing the Eagles, even though everybody in this division is horrid. He does bring this the part where Wentz turns the ball over all the time. He does the opposite of that, it seems like. Even if he's not bringing a multitude of huge positives, taking away that one negative is such a big thing for this team. So it's fun watching them actually compete with a quarterback. I like Jalen Hurts a lot. Hopefully he gets a full off season and plays well next year. I bet some NFL too. I bet a few NFL. There's a couple totals. They kind of took off. This one's still gettable, even at 10.5. Honestly, anything that says better than 10 on the Falcons right now. This is one where, boy, the most talked about game between myself, Drew and Suma, Drew and everybody, Drew in the timeline this morning, is the Kansas City game, and Kansas City underperforming. And whenever you see, this is maybe a little life lesson here. Whenever you see one of those trends, like, oh, this team hasn't covered a spread in 3, or they're due. Like there actually is something too. Like if a team continually does not cover spreads, like the people that set the lines, the people that run power numbers, they are forced to adjust slightly. So sometimes, you can say those are shit trends and those aren't something you should follow. A team is never due. A spread is informed by the market. The market sets the number when people bet into it all week, and it is what it is. But there are certain teams like this where if they keep winning, which Kansas City does, and not covering like they haven't for 6 weeks, eventually these spreads need to come down a little. But in a case of Kansas City just being this darling with it's Andy Reid, and you've got the hottest young head coach candidate and Eric Bieniemy, and you've got Patrick Mahomes working his magic and Tyreek and all these guys. Sometimes I don't think they make a proper adjustment on teams like this where they know they don't have to. They're still going to attract Kansas City money. People aren't going to be afraid to back a team like this that plays so well. They put up 30 some points again last week. So this is a kind of a numbers play, especially getting across the 10. I made this like 8.8. I can't get this to. I had an 11.5 yesterday. I bet I can't get it to there. I'm perfectly fine being on the other side of the 10. 10 is actually the 5th most common number that NFL games land on, past the 7, 3, 6, and one other one. Maybe honestly, I think 14 is pretty close to 10 at certain places. So I think 5% of games land on 10. It is a semi-key number. Being on the other side of that makes a difference to me. The Falcons are at 4-10. But they have a positive point differential. They've actually had some games. They're averaging 25 points per game or better. They can score. They scored against a much better defense in Tampa. They just, falconed it up at the end. And again, their defense is going to give up points. They're gonna need to score to stay in this and cover this. But this is a much easier defense than what they saw in Tampa. They'll be able to score. Looks like Clyde Edwards-Helaire suffered injury. He won't be playing this upcoming week. That helps a little. So I think the Falcons, this is a gross one. This is like betting the Panthers against Green Bay. It's a bad team from the NFC South against a really good team with a good offense, but it's just too many points. So I'm more than happy to take this many points. This is the only side I've actually placed all week. So
Atlanta is settling into like a Chargers East kind of thing where they play solid for a few quarters, and at the end of the game, it's just one big mess. Like you said, they were kind of in cruise control yesterday and just kind of flubbed it at the end. But like you said, being able to get across 10 is huge here. Kansas City has not been a covering machine this year like in past years, and I think this has backdoor written all over it. Some late young Huku field goal or junk Matt Ryan touchdown to get you just inside the number. It seems like that's how that plays out.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. When you have these bigger spreads, we've talked about this. When I used to talk to a baseball bettor, why he didn't bet -1.5s to save juice. He's like, because, a team has no incentive to win by 2. Insurance runs are nice, but it just changed the game. And, a team up by 6, 7, 8, 9 points with the ball late, they don't have an incentive to cover the game for you. They don't care. Like winning the game by a touchdown is the same in the box score. Point differential isn't making a big comeback in any of the tiebreakers. So, Falcons and points, and I think that takes us to tonight,
Monday night.
Monday.
Before we get into the first down touchdown scores, let's touch on the line real quick. Like you said, it's kind of a tough game. The Steelers are minus 14.5 right now. The total, a very low 40.5. I wonder, that's got to be one of the lower totals in a while. I haven't seen one that low. It is a division game. It's Pittsburgh on the road. A lot of people that are into trend betting will know that. I don't have off the top of my head, but I know Pittsburgh unders on the road have been spectacular this year, especially in division. Do you see anything here, kind of in the major markets that you'd like or would have a lean towards?
No, I was kind of hoping that I'd find a Bengals team total at 14, but it's looking like 13.5 is going to be the number. The implied score here is like 27.5 to 13.5. So Bengals first half team total is going to be like 6.5, 7. This is a bad look to be at home, but I mean after losing Burrow, this team has got continually worse with either quarterback. It doesn't really matter. It's still a tough defense in Pittsburgh, even after all the injuries. And the offense can move the ball. They have a lot of receivers if they're not dropping them. So I don't have a play here. Like I said, I will probably find a prop. That'll be my afternoon project after basketball, is find some props to bet in this. I went 2-2 yesterday, but I bet stuff at plus money, so worked out. So Justin Jefferson, thank you. Alvin Kamara, suck my butt. So we will, we'll just look to get rich right away off the first touchdown market, and
we love it.
That's my favorite thing. And if you weren't paying attention, and you didn't post these, but I got to see them, and some people who DM'd got to see them. But I think you hit both on the Saturday games.
Both tight ends. Love tight ends, folks.
We're
we're not doing a show, and you're looking in the first touchdown scorer market. Tight end is a great place to start. And the field too, but it's a little tougher to get, and that's website dependent.
And not everybody can get that.
Yeah, that one's a little tougher, but we've got some good names this week. Again, Pittsburgh versus Cincinnati. As you start to look at ways to attack both of these teams, obviously Pittsburgh is at a big advantage here. They have the much better offensive team. As you start to look at what the Bengals are bad against, the Bengals give up the 7th most touchdowns to tight ends and the 8th most touchdowns to wide receivers. So as we start to look at that, you want to attack both of those areas. We talked about tight ends. That is someone who's going to make the cut. But from a wide receiver perspective, it's tough with Pittsburgh because you have 3 guys. You have Juju Smith-Schuster, you have Chase Claypool, and Deontay Johnson, who are really just make it tough because you got to pick one of those guys. They're all about 8-1. If you were to bet all 3 of them together at the same stakes, it's effectively 2-1. I just really don't like those odds, and it's something that I'm going to stay away from. But Eric Ebron, the tight end at 12-1, I think is great value here. He gets a lot of looks from Roethlisberger as they get close to the end zone. And again, Cincinnati is bad against tight ends when it comes up giving up touchdowns. Now, the next 2 names, a little bit of value here in the market because, again, Cincinnati's a big underdog. And a lot of times when you look at the first touchdown score, you can see a lot of skewing in terms of the favorites players will be much more heavily favored, and the underdogs players will have a little more value. So when I look at those, I like Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. Pittsburgh has a pretty good defense, but they do give up the 8th most touchdowns to wide receivers. So it should be a good opportunity for that position group tonight. A.J. Green historically doesn't do well in Pittsburgh. He did have a good game last game, but it's had kind of a rough season. His numbers at like 20-1. I don't like that. Both Boyd and Higgins, I think, have a chance to sneak in a touchdown if Cincinnati can get the ball here first and have some success early on. And then the next 2, I like the Steelers defense and special teams and the Bengals defense and special teams. The Steelers generally do pretty well in terms of converting touchdowns. They've had 3 this year off interceptions. I think given who we're going to see a quarterback here from Cincinnati, there's a great chance of there possibly being a pick 6 here to start the game or something like that. And then the Bengals, that's just simply a numbers play for me. I don't think any defense or special team should ever be 50-1.
Number. One bad sack, and all of a sudden it's a silly bounce on a tipped pass, and 50-1 gets there.
Exactly. It's just, I really don't like that number. I would never make any defensive or special teams that big of a dog. So we'll sprinkle that a little bit. And I did see a question earlier in the comments. Let me just pull up the name there. Redaholics T. Do you spread a unit across players when betting evenly? I actually put a different amount on each person. My goal is to set myself up to win roughly the same amount, no matter who wins. We'll post a picture from the Brown Bag Bets Twitter account at Brown Bag Bets, so you can see, what my staking looks like here. Let me just double check. Basically, the way I have it set up right now, I have about 1.4 units risked across those 5 names to give me at least 4 units in return. And again, we'll tweet a picture of my little table out so you can see what that looks like. But when we're doing stuff like that, you see it a lot of times in futures. Our buddy Jay Maz does it in golf all the time.
I
kind of ripped the idea from him. Yep. But I like putting together a portfolio like that. It gives you more of an idea of what you're really buying into the market. I like the even pay, but what I like even more is that I know that I have 1.44 units to win 4.07, which means effectively the group that I put together is about plus 283. And that really helps me kind of understand the probabilities and things. So I think it's a good way to organize futures. And again, we'll tweet a picture of that out on the Brown Bag Bets accounts. If you have any questions, you can DM that account, myself on Twitter, Andy on Twitter, and we'll be sure to get back to you on that. But yeah, check that out. We'll tweet out that table so you guys can see what the staking look like. Any other thoughts or questions for you, Andy, before we wrap it up?
No, I'm excited to get those in. Kind of been, just between you and other people I follow, I've kind of been hitting a bunch of those to actually a decent amount of money I've made on those first touchdown scores. It's the most exciting bet outside of like 1st to 15 in the March Madness games. So, let's do a quick recap. NBA. You had the Kings under 28.5 regular season wins. What was your percentage? Like 40-ish?
40.5%. Yeah. I think somebody asked in here, looks like there's a couple prices under 28.5 wins plus 100. I prefer that over under 38.5%. But if you can get 40.5%, I like that a little bit better than 28.5. But they're good numbers. So that's today's future.
Yep. And then Evansville, Hampton, I put the current numbers up, 9.5, 5. You can get either of those. I'd say those are still a play. If they continue to trickle down, maybe stay away and pay attention for tomorrow's plays. You like the Eagles at a cheap price against a struggling Cowboys team who can be eliminated with a Washington win this coming Sunday. And I took the Falcons. I put 10.5. That's kind of what we're at now. I just checked the market. And Monday Night Football, Ebron, Boyd, Higgins, and both defenses. I don't hate that 50 to 1. I kind of will be. I hate to cheer against the Steelers because I still have futures on them. But I think if I can get that 50 to 1, I feel like they can muster a comeback. So, all right, cool. Well, thanks for everyone who watched last week, who continues to watch. Like I said, we'll do 4 of these this week. I don't know what the status is of first touchdown scorer markets a day ahead, but if they are, we'll try to get something together for the Vikings New Orleans game. It'll be tough. I'm not sure if they're up that early. We'll see. Maybe we'll just come up with some, like, if things are in this price range, here's a few guys that we might look for. So we'll check out we'll check you out tomorrow. NBA opener. We'll probably have some NBA stuff to talk about, and obviously more college basketball and football. So
NBA basketball, baby.